Hi, and welcome back to Lasting Peace. Thanks for being here this week. I want to talk to you again today a little bit about something we've discussed in the past, permanence in our recovery from an eating disorder. I'm in the process of becoming a mentor through a program called Mentor Connect, designed to help women dealing with eating disorders by using those people who have experienced recovery and are walking strongly in that recovery and helping them to utilize their experience to encourage and help someone who is 2, 3, 4, however many steps behind in the process, still stuck in their eating disorder. One of the interview questions that they asked in order to approve me as a mentor was, what is my definition of strong recovery? And I thought that was interesting because I have a good perspective on that, I think, because I've had 2 or 3 partial recoveries where I thought maybe I was on solid ground and then I relapsed. And I have to confess, I worried for a while whether or not this one was going to be real. What if I just tumbled straight back down the mountain and did the whole thing all over again? So I thought a little bit before I answered this question, and I want to read my answer to you, and then I'll give you some scripture to back that up before we close today. So, my answer to the question, what is my definition of strong recovery? Strong recovery means that I have been given the same opportunities, placed in the same fragile situations that I was once before. 6 years ago, in these particular situations, I relapsed. Specifically, my husband is in the Army. In 2006, we moved from Fort Bragg to Fort Benning. In the transition, the chaos, loneliness, and change, I fell back on eating disordered behaviors. When we left Benning, we moved to Washington State, and it was there I found recovery, permanently. But then, in 2013, the Army moved us to Benning again, and I was really scared that in that same environment, among the same influences, near the same running club, that I would spiral back down. When I arrived, I found the truth of my strength and the completeness of my recovery. I've walked my dog along the same trails where I used to log hundreds of miles. In pursuit of recovery, I've had to give up running. It was a choice. And even among friends who are still doing those same marathons and running the same training runs that I used to do, I am free. I will not go back to and have no interest in anything that would bring me face to face again with the demon of my eating disorder. Secondly, I kept the scale out of our home for years. Then this year my husband decided he needed one to track his physical fitness progress for his Army career. The scale no longer holds a temptation for me. I have not and will not step on it. It has lost its power. And lastly, a few years ago at the doctor, I was weighed and unintentionally saw the number. It was the first time I knew that I weigh again at least what I weighed when I was 14 before I ever got sick. And I couldn't believe it. I kept waiting for the panic to hit, but the number didn't rattle me. I love where my body is now, and I love how peaceful my mind is. I love the freedom, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, there you have it. What I believe the difference between a partial or tentative recovery is and what permanent recovery is. It is being able to face the same things that would have derailed you before with a confidence and an exuberance for the freedom that recovery has given you and the ability to stay on track in the face of those same temptations. And the scripture I wanted to give you to back this up is, I believe, 1 Kings 22:43. And it's talking about one of the kings of Israel long before, and the prophets, Elijah, and then we're going through, and I'm terrible with lining up the prophets with the various kings, but 1 Kings 22:43. He walked in the way of Asa his father. He did not turn aside from it. He did what was right in the sight of the Lord. Yet the high places were not taken away, and the people still sacrificed and made offerings on the high places. Just a little bit of context for you. The high places were not where God wanted his people to worship. Those were what they had set up to worship the Baals and the Asherahs and the false gods of the people that they were surrounded by. And they had finally gotten a righteous king, starting with Asa. And the people were following God. They wanted to, just like I wanted to be obedient to God in my life, and yet I still fell back on eating disordered behaviors. They still continued to worship at these high places because they did not tear them down. When we commit to recovery, we really do need to make some choices that tear down or demolish the old habits, ways that we can completely and permanently avoid those things that will derail us. For me, in the story I just read you, the most obvious to me is I gave up running. The most I do now is when I'm walking my dog around the lake, and the sheer joy of being outside hits me, and I'll chase the dog for a while, but I don't run races. I won't run another marathon. That it is worth it to me to have torn down that stronghold. That was something that to me represented or was extremely predominant in my eating disorder. I've torn down that stronghold. So I'm curious, if you don't mind, answer me. Send a message here or on my blog. What is a stronghold, whether you're still in your eating disorder or you're way beyond it? What is one of the strongholds that you either have torn down or you don't want to tear down, and you're only halfway interested, halfway committed to the freedom that recovery, I promise, will give you? Anyway, I'm sorry we're about a minute longer this time, but thanks again for joining me here at Lasting Peace, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.